officially certified relationship and sex therapist Emily Diala and relationship expert Dr. Dia Von Young are taking your call, 713-284-1055. We also ask you to comment on Facebook. Where does cheating begin with you? Ryan Clark says cheating is cheating. It doesn't have to be sexual. Crystal Ray Solis says if you have to hide it, then it's cheating. All right, keep your comments coming, and we'll share some more of those throughout the show. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, Carmen.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. What's your question for our therapist?
Okay, well, first of all, I've been watching you since you first came out, and that was just, what, 20-something years ago?
Well, I think it was 14 years ago, but if you think it's 20, it's okay. Time flies when you're having fun.
There's a free app. The free apps that are couch sex games. I was wondering, I have 3 adult males in my house, so it's 24/7. I don't know how to use a Facebook thing or what on any way, any form. How do I regulate this? Because I'm hearing the moanings and the goings on day and night. And I have no say in my house. I have no say in my house. How can I regulate this? So it's a free.
You said you have 3 adult males. Are these your sons?
2 of them. The other one's my husband.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So what you're saying is you have 3 children in your house. Okay.
He's not home. They're home. Whatever. They're not. So it's like whoever's home. It's all day, all night, because they're 22. My sons, my twins. So and my husband. So it's a consistent. It's a free app on PBS. So for the greater Houston area, local Houston area, it's a free app. How can I regulate it? What say do I have if I am so ignorant to the technology of it?
Okay, she needs to regulate her son and her
Carmen
husband.
needs to leave Starbucks alone. Now, being quite honest, Carmen, what you need to do is not focus so much on regulation, but on what is it that you are endorsing, and monitor how your sons are being affected by their behavior. If you see that your sons are starting to do things with bravado in mind, ask them, is this really who you are? And why are you doing this? Do you feel so little comfort about being yourself that you have to build your self-esteem off of your cell phone, who sent you a picture or who you sent a picture to? To be honest, if the mark of a man, or especially a young man, isn't how other people feel about you, but it's about how you feel about yourself.
It almost speaks to the addiction rule, Emily, if it starts interfering with your everyday life.
Right. So, I mean, like in the case of Wiener, when someone continues to engage in a behavior despite the negative consequences, you may want to start thinking about the fact that that could become something that's compulsive. If there is a level of preoccupation, if what you're doing is, happening when you're supposed to be working, spending time with friends, spending time with family.
Or digging into your wallet too much.
Yeah, if you're spending inordinate amounts of time and money on the behavior, then it starts to toe the line of pathology. And so I think it's important for people to take a look inside and ask them those questions.
Mama, you need to put your foot down and remind them if Mama ain't happy, nobody in the house is going to be happy. All right, let's go to Elizabeth. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning.
What's your question for our therapist?
My question for the therapist, and it's probably directed towards Dr. Young, is that I have been dating a guy, really kicking off very, very well. Met his best friend, really wooed me very well, basically baited me in, and I like him. Everything's mutual. Then all of a sudden, he decides that he needs some space. And so never cross the line. Let me just put that out there. Never cross the line. I just need some space. So I don't know, does that mean they don't want to talk to you anymore? Do you give, or how much time and space do you give them?
Well, to answer your question, don't engage in mind reading. It's an activity that never works. People probably do need their space, and there are things that I suggest that you do to determine the nature of the personality that you're dealing with. There is a term, typology, and it's often associated with the Myers-Briggs instrument or what have you. But if someone is an introvert, they probably need some space. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It doesn't mean they don't want to be with you. Often people that are very successful professionally or climbing that corporate ladder have to commit those energies to things that are going to help build their brand or further their giftings. So what I would suggest is 2 things. First, ask a question and don't assume. Second, don't take it too personal, because it's a complicated world that we live in, and people are often complicated just like that world.
You know, and sometimes I will say, as women, we want to be such helpers, and sometimes we, I think, smother that other person. They don't know how to tell you that.
Right.
But I remember a friend telling me once, what happens to a dog when you chase it? It runs away, doesn't it? What happens when you run from a dog?
Chasing.
Yeah.
All right, we have an email question right here.
That's unfair, Deborah.
Yeah, I'm just saying. When I left, he came running. Okay, question number one. Okay, for email question number one. Is it all right for a mom to read my daughter's text on her phone? Even though she pays for her own phone, I feel like I should have a right as a parent to keep dibs on what she's up to. And that comes from Margaret.
I do think that a parent has that right. You know, if your child bought her own car, you wouldn't let her go take road trips wherever she wanted. You would still implement some rules and boundaries around that, and I think the same applies for a cell phone. You know, and it's not so much about them, but it's about who's on the other end that you have to worry about. And so you can kind of couch it like that to your teen and talk about who is receiving this. You know, yes, I trust you, but I'm not sure who you're talking to, and we need to have an open dialogue about that.
It also tells you a lot about your child. I have a friend right now whose child was sending explicit messages at the age of 14 to a boy. But that let her mother realize, wow, we have some real self-esteem issues that we need to work on here, because she never would have guessed it. Quiet little smart girl, never would have guessed it, and then saw it in those messages.
Yeah,
So.
I do think from time to...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Two things. First, how old is this kid? Because if your child is 19 years old or older,
you're
violating that kid's privacy.
Or if you're living in my house, and I have some concerns about you.
Michael said you would say that. And then here's the second part of it, though, is that where did we get the behavior from? Often parents don't take responsibility to their contribution to that kid's behavior. So before you start looking at where the apple fell, kind of look at what kind of tree you are and where you're planted.
Well, I think you have to start the conversation so early, you know, because if you're not talking to your kids at all, you're not going to really know who they are. They're changing so much in those years. I mean, almost on a day-to-day basis. So dialogue has to be happening from day one. They're getting the cell phones earlier and earlier now, so you want to talk to them from that first day about what the rules and boundaries are, and ultimately it's for their safety. And yes, with someone older of age, I do agree you're violating a boundary, but I think with the younger ones, there needs to be more involvement.
Sometimes you really got to look at what's going on. You have a child at home that has a drug issue. And you can look on that when they're telling you, no, Mom, I'm not using. If you can pick up that phone and it's sitting there and you see there's something else going on, maybe you might need to. I would say that's one of those things you got to play by ear, but definitely if you have a minor, kids have to understand that parents have a right to all of those things.
And know your kid. I mean, is your kid one that's likely to maybe engage in a little bit riskier behaviors than someone else? If so, you may need to keep a closer eye.
And I think that's the point. Know your kid. A lot of us think we know them. And then all of a sudden, surprise.
I know.
You never know. All right. The toughest job you'll ever love. If you would like more information on Dr. Dia Van-Yong and Emily Diala, just go to our site, greatdayhouston.com. Once again, thank you two very much for your advice.
Thank you.
Go ahead. A common ingredient found in your home could help you lose weight just by smelling it. What? We'll tell you what it is and sniff out other weight loss tips next.